Welcome to Blind Abilities, Corona19 from a blindness perspective. We realize that the information and stats and guidelines will be changing on a daily basis, and sometimes in just a matter of hours. So for the latest updated information on the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, go to www.cdc.gov/COVID-19. And from the Blind Abilities team, we're wishing you, your families, your communities, the strength and wellness and access to information as we face the challenges surrounding the COVID-19 virus. We can do it, and we can do it together, even at 6 feet apart.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Minnesota. I want to first of all say thank you all for your patience and understanding what we're doing in the midst of this unprecedented health crisis.
I typically use Instacart. I have seen a lot of friends on Facebook that are blind trying to get groceries through Instacart, and they've either, like Tiffany said, their groceries have come late. They've got half the stuff that they wanted, so they've had to make alternative measures and go to different stores to try to find what they do need.
It was a ghost town at CSUN. Vendors backed out, participants backed out. It just really was a very small crowd of folks attending.
We've talked a lot about Zoom, and I want everyone to know that Zoom is probably the most accessible phone and video conferencing software I think I've ever used.
I'm also pleased to report today that a vaccine candidate has begun the phase 1 clinical trial.
Your own workspace, even for the students that are going to be home, the K through 12, they have to have that area, and you yourself, someone working from home, you're going to have that area too.
We temporarily close schools, give them administration time to plan. To protect the public's health and slowing, today I am issuing Executive Emergency Order 20-03 that would place partial closures of restaurants, bars, and establishments serving food and drink for dine-in services, as well as places of public accommodation and amusement during COVID-19 peacetime emergencies.
I will be developing a website on my site Blindy Blog, BLINDYBLOG, that outlines the resources that we talked about today. I haven't noticed any resources that are specifically targeted to the blind and visually impaired community.
Therefore, my administration is recommending that all Americans, including the young and healthy, work to engage in schooling from home when possible, avoid gathering in groups of more than 10 people, avoid discretionary travel, and avoid eating and drinking at bars, restaurants, and public food courts.
Here are the top 10 things you can do if you think you might have coronavirus or COVID-19. 1. Stay home. 2. Monitor your symptoms carefully. If they worsen, call your healthcare provider. 3. Rest and stay hydrated. 4. If you have a medical appointment, call ahead and let them know you may have COVID-19. 5. If your symptoms are severe, call 911. 6. Cover your cough and sneezes. 7. Wash your hands often. 8. Stay away from others in your home. Use a separate bathroom. 9. Avoid sharing personal items. And 10. Clean all surfaces that are touched often. For more information on COVID-19, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Let's take care of ourselves and each other.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson, and today in the studio we got a roundtable going here, and we got Serina Gilbert from Colorado. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Jeff. How are you?
Good. And to my left we have Tiffany Manosh from Northern California. How you doing, Tiffany?
Great, Jeff. Thank you so much.
And to my right we got Lori Thompson from Friendly Fridley, Minnesota. How you doing?
I am fabulous. Thanks for having me.
And today we're going to be talking about the blindness community and the coronavirus. Serina came up with this idea and we all just jumped at it. So Serina, take it away.
Well, I'm super excited that everyone was able to join us on such short notice. I know it was 3 hours ago that I was like, Jeff, we should do this. And I sent him 20 text messages all in a row Lori was probably like, what in the world? But I felt like it was important because I'm not seeing a lot of people sharing information that maybe is particularly unique to the blind and visually impaired community. We have some unique barriers when it comes to this, maybe some different anxieties and different issues that we have to take into consideration when protecting ourselves and still getting the things that we need done for our family, work, life, whatever the case may be. Before we kind of jump into topics, I just want to let everyone know that we're not going to really talk a lot about statistics and a lot of specifics about the coronavirus because the reality is that this information is changing every single day, and we would hate to send out information that is not completely accurate or is misleading in any way. We're going to choose to approach the topic in a slightly different way and make sure that you have the resources that you need, a safe place to be able to chat about specific things, as well as any follow-up information that you might want to be able to have access to from the CDC or your local health department.
That's great. I know everyone out there is thinking, like 2 weeks ago or a month ago, even when we first started hearing a little bits about this, it's slowly built up to each day you're hearing a new level. It's like we're being weaned into it. And now it seems like these last 4 or 5 days have really escalated to the point that you should know about this stuff because it's on everywhere. And whether you have a family, parents, kids, schools are closing in Minnesota here. K through 12 is closing on Wednesday, and most of them are closing on Monday for a 2-week period. Now, this, they say, is just a period where they're going to study the situation and figure out how they're going to go about, because everyone knows it might go on longer than that. So the school wants to put their brains together and come up with an idea on how they're going to coordinate teaching from home. And so that puts a lot of stress. There's a lot of fallout from that when schools, because you got K through 12 all being at home, you got daycares, you got businesses and janitors and all sorts of, it just multiplies all the way down. Plus other businesses are closing. And, I know mostly what's happening in Minnesota because our governor just spoke about it. We had a big 90-minute thing on TV about it. It was really interesting to hear. How's it going in California?
In California, things are closing left and right. My great niece's school has been closed. My college, American River College, will be closing Wednesday. We'll be going to work Monday and Tuesday, but then starting Wednesday on for the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will be closed. So it's being impacted everywhere. I think every state is being impacted some way or another.
Yeah, it's really impacting everybody's daily life, going to the grocery store, planning how to get to work. I'm going to work tomorrow, but I'm hoping that I will be able to telecommute after that. But just the preparing for hunkering down for 14 days, getting groceries, using Instacart. Maybe you have some appointments and you have to cancel them and reschedule. It's just really affecting a lot of things.
Yeah, I know here in Colorado, I work for the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, so we have a lot of vulnerable individuals that could possibly come into our office. As of the recording of this podcast, our office is still open, but we have been asked to minimize any in-person or face-to-face appointments, basically at all costs, from what I've interpreted from the communications that we've been receiving. So, for example, on Friday, I did a virtual meeting on Zoom with a client and a service provider in order to get some paperwork done, as opposed to having everyone come into the office. And I'm fortunate that the next couple of weeks, I actually don't have any meetings scheduled because I had actually prepared to be going on a trip that had to have been canceled the week of the 23rd. So at least until April 1st, I don't have to really worry about that. But I'm hopeful that at some point our office will decide, because we can't completely close. I don't think that that's something that is even an option right now. But it would be nice to say we're closed to the public and we provide services like by mailing things or via Zoom or whatever needs to happen so that we can still provide the basic services. And then, of course, like you were saying, Tiffany, my son, his school is closed for 2 weeks. Granted, one of those 2 weeks was the spring break week, but the first week of it, they are expected to be doing learning activities at home, including some programs. We have like this program called Lexia and ST Math that he can do on his iPad, but he came home with a backpack full of books and resources. I haven't even looked at it yet because I just don't even want to think about it. And luckily, we're in a position where my husband's able to work from home for this full 2 weeks. My work is being very flexible as well, where if he would like to go into the office and not have to be at home for 2 solid weeks working, I can be home with him as well. But I mean, it's only day 2 of us just kind of being in the house for the most part. Like, we're not avoiding everything, but for the most part, we're in the house. And I've got to be honest, I'm already just kind of going stir crazy. So I'm glad I do get to go to work tomorrow, but I don't know how many more days that will continue, and they might say telework.
Yes, I totally agree. As much as I hate getting up and going to work, I do love it when I get there.
Couldn't
But
have said it better myself.
you know what I
So
mean?
true.
It's
Yeah.
so hard to get up and go to work, but once you're there, it's like going to the gym. It's hard to get to the gym, but once I'm there, I love it.
And that's another thing. We got an appointment coming up here about going to the gym. Now, do you just avoid going? And I think with the stress put upon all our different society and our neighborhoods, our communities and stuff like that, it's almost like you are obligated not to go. Or do you wear gloves? Because it seems like everyone's touching everything at the club. So it seems like a high frequented space for transferring germs or something like that. So if you have to think about it too long, you might as well just start canceling and bite down for a little bit here. Because the more people that do it, the more we can curve that reaction to the community and the spread.
Now, I know that we've all had some travel plans. I know I've had some. Lori, you recently had a trip. Tiffany, you just got back from CSUN. I'm kind of curious to talk a little bit about the travel piece of it. And I guess we'll start with you, Tiffany. Tell me, what was CSUN like? And then what was it like? I'm not sure if you traveled by airplane or other means. What was it like traveling back home?
So I traveled via Southwest Airlines from Sacramento to Ontario. And I thought what was interesting is I had a great gal who was collecting tickets, and she's like, "Are you with anybody?" I said, "Nope, traveling by myself." She goes, "Do you need any help?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm good." She goes, "Do you need any help in Orange County?" I'm like, "Nope." She goes, "Okay, get out of here." You know? So it was kind of cute. But really, there was no real fear. I mean, you just did your normal routine as far as lining up, getting on the plane. There was probably about 40 empty seats on our flight down to Orange County. And then I did CSUN, and it was a ghost town at CSUN. Vendors backed out, participants backed out. It just really was a very small crowd of folks attending. I'm really glad that I went. Got a lot of great one-on-one time with the vendors, and that was really appreciative. And then flying home really didn't seem like there was any change or anything different due to the coronavirus. It was just a normal flight, boarded, got on, got home. Everybody was very, very friendly and cordial, and it was really nice.
What was it like being at the convention with everybody? Because that's right when all the news and all the breaking news about closures started happening. It was like dominoes falling for you guys.
Yeah, so I arrived Tuesday night, and Wednesday I actually spent it at Disneyland with a very crowded Disneyland park. That didn't seem to be affected hardly at all. And then Thursday and Friday, I was at the Marriott Hotel for where CSUN was taking place. People were concerned. They were constantly wiping down technology so that there wasn't that fear of, oh my gosh, do I need to sterilize my own hands kind of thing. I had a bottle of hand sanitizer with me, and after touching stuff, I would dab it and, wipe my hands to make sure I was clean myself. So I think the awareness of keeping things clean and sterilized was really high importance for everyone at CSUN.
You talked about travel being canceled. I was scheduled to go out to Pittsburgh for the United States Hockey League, and I thought, well, that might just fall in, who really cares about the Blind Hockey League? But because it's part of the U.S. Hockey League, they canceled it all the way across the board. As soon as the NHL went down, the basketball went down, baseball, everything, all the sports, all the way down to even the level of where I'm playing at. And it was just clean cut. It was done. And then the season here was canceled because it falls within the next 2 weeks. So everything's shut down. And I honor that because you never know. I have to jump in an Uber or a Lyft and travel. Who's been in there before me? And you just start thinking of all the contact that you have in transportation or going to the rink or anything. So I get it. Stay at home.
And Lori, I understand you got a nice girls trip just under the wire, it seems, because when did you get back? A couple weeks ago from Orlando?
I left on February 28th right after work, and I came back on March 5th. Yeah, and it was no issues at all. It was great. I would go again if I could.
But not right now.
No, not right now. No, but I didn't have any issues. I was on Delta. You could tell when you got on the plane, you could smell that they had freshened up the place. I didn't have any issues at all. Going down, I was in a row by myself. I mean, the 3 seats on my side of the plane, it was supposed to be a full plane, but I was the only one in those 3 seats. And then coming back, there was a seat between me and another gentleman. So, we weren't piled up on top of each other, but I didn't have any issues. Security was good. It just seemed like normal to me.
Now, Serina, the AFB conference, the leadership conference, was closed or canceled, and you were looking forward to going to that.
Yeah, they told me, gosh, it was really only a few days ago. I mean, this has been the longest week probably of my life. It feels like it's been a month. They told us on, I think it was Tuesday of this past week, that they were canceling all of the activities and making arrangements for us to participate either virtually and then hopefully the in-person training and activities for at least the Blind Leaders Development Program sometime, I'm guessing September is what they're trying to predict. And I honestly, I'm not going to lie, I was super bummed when they told me. Like, it completely changed the mood of my day, and I did pout a little bit because I was just like, oh, this is so frustrating. But then seeing what happened in the days leading up to it, I was like, I never had a chance. I mean, with all the other things getting canceled, even if it wouldn't have gotten canceled that day, it would have been the next. And they're working to try to get it rescheduled, and I'm grateful for that and that I will still be able to participate in some way, shape, or form. But it was kind of interesting because this was a trip I've been planning for about 3-4 months now. Lots of paperwork I had to put in for getting travel arrangements and things like that. So all those hours put in, and then 10 minutes all canceled. Like, it's so easy to cancel something, but really hard to book it.
Kind of like Christmas dinner, you know? You prepare,
Yep.
prepare, and then you eat. In 5 minutes, it's done.
Exactly. And then there's just a mess.
Wow.
It's a good comparison.
With all these changes that happened, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. Oh, it built up to it. Like I said before, it just seems like we've been weaned into this a little bit, little more news, no more news. I was just like frozen all day in a sense where I was listening to the news and I just couldn't get away from it. You know, it was everywhere and it just kept getting larger and larger. And you just realize we're in it. It's here. The world is dealing with this, and our community, our country, everything. And so when you talk about your mental health and this anxiety, it does start to build up. You start thinking, well, I'm not a hoarder. By the way, how much is in the freezer? You know, you start thinking about what if? Those questions it's perplexing to think that I don't want to be hoarding and taken away from someone else. And yet you want to be able to think about, do we have 2 weeks worth of groceries? Do we have supplies and everything else at the stores? You don't want to have to, but we're here. It's upon us.
And what's even weirder is when you go to the stores, the shelves are like half empty. So you really can't even stock up if you wanted to with some things because it's not available.
And I've been reading some articles and kind of learning about the psychology of why is everybody buying so much toilet paper and food and things like that. And I heard that laugh. Well, it's interesting, though, because we have plenty of toilet paper, but we have still been looking for some because it's a loss of control is really what it's all about. It's, okay, I have this supply right now, but what if something should change and I would not be able to get a hold of this and I would need it? That's where that anxiety really comes from. Same thing with the food. And then also contributing to the extra food people are buying is their kids are unexpectedly home where they would have been maybe eating lunch at school or taking different types of things to school to eat as opposed to eating at home. So it's not all like, oh my gosh, I need to buy so much of this stuff. It's your kids are home and you got to feed them, and it's not like it was summer break and you've been planning for it for a month. You got a couple days notice and all of a sudden you've got to go find these things.
Yeah.
But that brings up another point that Lori touched on a little bit, and this can especially impact our community, is how do we get food? You know, how are we getting our groceries and making sure that we have what we need? And what are some of the impacts on some of the delivery places like Instacart and DoorDash and Uber Eats and things like that? So I know we put in a King Soopers click list order. We're keeping our fingers crossed that it'll at least have half the stuff that we put on it tonight when my husband goes to pick it up. I don't know, what have you guys been doing to try to get some groceries in the house? We'll start with Lori.
So I'm very fortunate. I have two young adult children that live here with us, and they both work. So Friday, I sent Jeff and Justin off to Sam's Club. They were able to purchase some meat, some hamburger, pork chops, and chicken. They did have some toilet paper, so Jeff went ahead and picked up some. They didn't have the name brands. They had the Sam's Club Pantry Market or whatever it's called, Market Pantry, or they picked that up. And I'm just fortunate that they have that. I typically use Instacart. I have seen a lot of friends on Facebook that are blind trying to get groceries through Instacart, and they've either, like Tiffany said, their groceries have come late. They've got half the stuff that they wanted, so they've had to make alternative measures and go to different stores to try to find what they do need to help them get through this time. Instacart here, we probably have maybe 5 different grocery stores that are available. The Aldi, the Cub, I don't know what brand or what shops you guys have out there. Aldi, I didn't even try to order from Aldi or get anything from Aldi because I figured that would probably be the first place people would go to. So that and communicating with some friends. Hey, are you going to the store? Because I forgot to get this. See if they go out and see if they find what I missed. They could pick that up for me and swing it by or something, something like that.
So Jeff, I am very curious because Friday was probably a big peak of the mayhem. What was it like going to Sam's Club on a Friday trying to shop for the essentials that you guys needed?
Well, I'm a Sam's Plus member, so I'm able to get in at 7 o'clock a.m., where the rest of the public gets in, let's say 10 a.m. And yet it wasn't hard to find the toilet paper area because there was a stream of carts going that way. You could just bump and end up there. And I did not stack 3 high like this gal next to me did. I just found what was available and I grabbed a case of it. I think there's 36 rolls in a case at Sam's Club. You buy it in the bundle. I just threw it underneath the cart and then we went over and got some hamburger and stuff like that. The thing that I noticed the most was typically when you're going shopping, you just go and you take what you need. But what I noticed was they were running down on the hamburger, but as I was walking away, a guy came out and Justin told me, they're adding more to the hamburger area. So it's like they're keeping up the pace, but this was 1 hour in to the day. And I talked to one of the stock persons there and they said, the last hour has been really busy and we just keep on replacing until we can't. So it was early in the morning. So I guess the suggestion that I found out would be to go early in the morning because typically the workers start an hour before that, stock things up, get ready, get prepared, and you might have a chance to get your stuff. Make a list of stuff that you want. And it's not a time to go shopping each aisle and think of what you want. Get what you need. Think about what you should have at home. And if you're going to go to like a Sam's Club, you usually buy it in a little bigger bulk than normal, but we didn't go crazy. We got stuff, but you're right. It was the start of it. Friday was the start of it. So now I'm thinking maybe I should have grabbed more. So it's here, isn't it?
Well, and keep in mind too, to make sure you check the store hours before you head out. I don't want to say specific stores or specific hours because it will definitely change without a doubt. But there's been at least 2 stores that I know of, 2 major stores that are changing their hours. One of them is typically 24 hours and it is no longer going to be 24 hours. And another has dropped about 6 hours of time that they would normally have been open. So make sure you're checking before you venture out if you absolutely have to go out. Tiffany, have you braved the crowd to try to get any food or tried to order things yourself too?
I have not, but my mom has gone out and she said that the shelves, you're looking for things and there might be like 1 or 2 left of it or not at all. So the shelves are definitely getting bare as people are hoarding up and getting ready to be hunkered down for the next 14 days pretty much. It's really kind of sad, but also scary at the same point because, as you said, you got kids that are home, so you have to prepare different meals for them, different types of food. So you do have to stock up and be prepared for family members or children during these times because of everything closing down.
Well, that's another thing. The kids we're talking about are nearly 21 and 24 years old. They're out and about with their friends and they come home and I keep on imagining them as these walking petri dishes entering the house. It's like, it's real. I mean, it's almost like you want to have a entryway that just sterilizes anything that comes in. I mean, if you're quarantined inside, if you're self-isolating, I should say, but someone goes out and goes to a dance or a bar and comes back home. It's interesting the thoughts that are starting to come out, and that's what worries me a lot is how people are gonna take this. What are we on, day 3, day 4, something like that, where we realize we're gonna have to start isolating for a while and all the closures? What's it gonna be like in 2 weeks or a month? Not to get off on that track, but it's starting to hit home. And like Serina, in the outline, I saw the mental health thing was mentioned twice or 3 times and the anxiety and stuff. It's going to rise.
Yeah, I know a lot of mental health places, senior facilities, you can't even go and visit those family members that are there because everybody's so afraid. And, it's just really interesting how people are really tightening down and how it affects, the older population. I even heard that children could be carriers of it and you don't even know it. They don't have it, per se, but they could be a carrier of it and not even know it. And then you could be sick, those who are older or have health issues. So there's a wide range really to be considering of the coronavirus.
Yeah. And, just doing our daily things, going to the store, going to the gym, riding a bus, you touch something that someone else has touched, you don't know. So it is really scary. And I almost want to wear gloves on the public transit, or pushing my grocery cart, or I know that's silly, but this is the reality,
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that that's kind of where a lot of this anxiety is coming from, is that the reality is every day we learn a little bit something new about the coronavirus that we maybe didn't know or slightly different than what we were told the day before. So that's where it is. Because the flu, we know how that's transmitted. We know what the symptoms are going to look like. There's treatment for it to help reduce the symptoms, things like that. But with this, it's so brand new, as they call the novel coronavirus, that's what's called, it's the fear of the unknown. And then seeing how lethal it is for the most vulnerable population piece of it too. And right now, that's where it's been impacting people, is the vulnerable piece. It's pre-existing medical conditions, certain age groups and things like that. But we don't really know the long-term impacts or who else might be considered vulnerable, and we just don't know because they haven't studied it enough yet.
Well, I think when you're talking about one of the vulnerabilities is we're very tactile people. We go to a doorknob, we're going to grope that whole doorknob, the whole area of it, until we find it, or pushing doors at the malls or something if they don't automatically open or something like that. But when we shop, we touch a lot of stuff, and that's where, if we can get a shopper, that'd be better. Or if we can get one of these Instacart services, one of the services to help us out, I think it'd be a lot better. But everything is going to get more busier, and everything is going to get a little bit tougher to do. Not going to be able to just open your app and just order something and get a 2-hour delivery. I think it's going to get tightened up a little bit. So that's some of those things are the things that are unique to our community.
That's a great point. So some things to keep in mind when trying to, make sure you have the essentials that you need. First and most importantly is plan ahead. The likelihood, like Jeff said, of you getting even a delivery tomorrow is pretty low right now because the supplies are low. And I think there's a lot of gig economy people taking a break right now. So that leaves a lot less people to even provide you what you need. The other piece of things is there are certain things that you will not be able to get delivered to you no matter how hard you try. Mm-hmm. For example, toilet paper, Clorox wipes, and hand sanitizer. It's not going to happen. Like, even if they say they're in stock at the store that you're looking at, it will also say you must go inside the store to pick it up. Believe me, I've tried. So if some of the things that you need fall under that category, like Lori said, maybe partner with a neighbor or friend that is already heading out to see if maybe they can help you out. Worst case scenario, you might just have to, track it out there and try to find those few things yourself, get right home as soon as you can. Unfortunately, there's just certain things that they go out of stock before they even hit a warehouse, is what we're finding out. So got to plan ahead for sure.
For sure. And I would suggest you sit down and make some meal planning to know what items you do need. Maybe you make a big 9x13 casserole and you eat half of it, but freeze the other half. You know what I mean? I don't know if eventually the stores are going to, put up on their websites what days they get certain items in. And then you plan to get up early that day and get to the store and try to retrieve what you need. I don't know. It's just, it's totally mind-boggling to me that here we are in 2020 and we have this pandemic and we've never seen this before. You know what I mean? We've taken so much for granted, I think, to be put in this position. It's just mind-boggling to me.
So I think it's important that we move into talking a little bit about some things you can do to prevent the possible spread for yourself or even to others in regards to the coronavirus. So we're probably going to have a pretty lengthy show notes summary for this. Thanks in advance to Jeff because he gets to write all that for us. But some things that you want to make sure you're keeping an eye on are, of course, the CDC's website, which we'll put in the show notes for you, in regards to obviously practicing proper hand washing techniques and practicing social distancing whenever possible. And, I'm really strong about if you don't need to go out, then just don't. I'm not saying that completely change your life. Like, if you want to go out and have a meal with your family, don't let the fear get to you, but also keep in mind that, don't go touching everything that you normally wouldn't be touching, and make sure you're washing your hands frequently. That is the biggest thing that the CDC is saying, is making sure you're washing your hands, and of course drinking plenty of water, because that is going to significantly help if you do happen to catch the virus.
Another thing that when you mentioned don't touch everything, but what happens when you do have a package delivered or groceries delivered? Someone else has gotten those groceries. So you start to wonder, at what level are we safe? Who picked the groceries? You just don't know. Even in the grocery store, some people pick something up, then they say, nah, I don't want it, and put it back down. You could take this to a whole extreme of, where's it going? Like when Lori was saying the bare essentials, when do they go into the store? When I was there, sugar and flour from Sam's Club was barren. I didn't even think about that. And all of a sudden Justin said, well, glad we're not picking up sugar or flour, a core thing for people who bake and everything. So, yeah, it's all new. It's all new.
I think the biggest thing is really making sure that you're washing your hands and washing your hands thoroughly. It's not just a quick in and out and done, but it's really taking the time to really washing your hands thoroughly and as frequently as you feel you need to.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because now they're coming up and telling us the symptoms, a dry cough and a fever. And I know, Serina, you put some notes on here to go through, like if you start feeling the symptoms.
Well, and it's interesting seems to be the word of the day for us. But I'm a lot of synonyms right now. It's definitely, I think it's causing a little bit of paranoia in regards to, oh my God, I have a tickle in my throat. Do I have the virus? Oh my God. And it gets to you, and then that stresses you out, and then that makes you feel more sick. It's an endless cycle. But inevitably, some of us might feel that we truly are in the risk factors of maybe being exposed to the virus. And there are some things that are really important to keep in mind should you feel that you do have that potential threat of having a positive test for coronavirus. And number one is make sure that if you do think that that's the case, call ahead to your medical provider. They are not encouraging that you just show up to the doctor's office, because they will screen you over the phone as far as basic questions to determine if they think that you do need to get tested. And if they do think that you need to get tested, they're going to give you very specific instructions on what to do. I would not recommend getting in a rideshare or an Uber or a Lyft, because that puts other people at risk exponentially if you were to do that. I had a friend on Facebook share some information because she had some significant concerns regarding, oh my gosh, like if I do feel that I need to get tested, what do I do? And what she did is she called her county health department and told them her concerns, and they told, I guess I won't share what they told her because it could be different for your county or your city or province, wherever you are, but they might have special arrangements that they can make and a special procedure that they want you to follow so that they can get you safely transported to get that testing done without further exposing other people.
Yeah, and I don't know, here in Minnesota, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have this option too, you can do like a Zoom video with your doctor to talk to them about what your symptoms are and stuff like that as well. So I don't know if you guys have that available where you are, but we do.
What's interesting is I have that with one of my doctors, but not with the other. The other one is just a telephone. But either way, do it over the phone. And they will walk you through asking questions and making sure if you say yes to something, I think they're going to then follow through with other additional questions to really make sure that, oh, well, it's really just a cold. It doesn't sound like you have the virus. But if you do, I think they're really going to question and re-question and really dive down deep, because they don't want you to be afraid. And they want to make sure that they're handling those who may potentially have, the virus versus those who really don't.
You mentioned Zoom calls, and I think it was 2014 when he came out with the Zoom, and we use it for podcasting. And who thought that this tool that we use to connect up with would become so important at this point of time? We have so many different meetings that are being canceled, and people are proposing to move it over to Zoom. Zoom just made it available to K through 12, all the way from China to Italy to United States now. And I always imagine that day when we'll be video conferencing for more things than that, but now we're being forced into a situation where it's commonplace to be using these tools for work. Working from home was, kind of flex jobs and stuff like that. And now here we are where it's recommended by the state to figure out ways to get more people to work from home. So interesting times. And once again,
I know one of the concerns that they have with using Zoom for the next, few weeks with people working from home, they say the bandwidth and stuff, and they recommend that people use the audio of Zoom instead of the video because of that. I know when I work at home, telecommute, using the computer, it is a little bit slower than using my desktop in the office. I don't know about you, Serina. Do you have that same problem?
I actually don't, but my work bought me like a supercomputer. It has like 32 gigs of RAM. And We also use Cisco VPN, which if we're going to be on like a network that's a little bit iffy, then we would definitely use that VPN. Or if we need to be able to print from home, because if we get on our VPN, we can just hit print and it'll print at the office. But I haven't noticed a lag because I've definitely done a lot of Zoom calls and webinars and meetings from home. But it could be the way that your computer's set up to network back to the office too.
Yeah, I also use Cisco VPN, but I know if I have to upload a lot of documents into our database, it's so slow.
Yeah, I haven't really had any problems. I've had to utilize Zoom and will be starting Wednesday. The National Federation of the Blind have asked people not to hold their monthly chapter meetings and hold them via teleconference or Zoom or whatever. And so I used Zoom Saturday for the River City chapter, meeting, and it actually went really well. Our chapter has a lot of, I would say, non-techie people, so I wasn't sure how all it was going to work out, but it worked out actually really well, which is good. And then as an instructional assistant for our computer science department, it's going to be interesting to see how I can interact with students using Zoom and other tools, whether it be our online tool using Canvas and Zoom together to assist students during these times of uncertainty.
Well, one of the things with the State Rehab Council for the Blind in Minnesota here, our meetings have to be held open to the public. And so the protocol would be somehow announcing to the public that they could join by Zoom. So I don't think this threshold has been crossed before, especially when you're talking about open public meetings.
Yeah, Zoom definitely can be. You can share that link with, and anyone who has the link would be able to join, essentially. You might, because I know you're the chairman, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Of the SRC. So you might, whoever's helping you set it up, or if you're setting it up, you might want to see if they can upgrade that account to a webinar version, because the regular Zoom meeting version does have a limit as to how many people can join. And I don't know how many people you guys would realistically have joined, but if you're thinking there might be even 50 people, the webinar version allows more controls where people can raise their hand and that you're not getting all the interruptions and people talking over each other, so that it can make the meeting move a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah, it's just new territory that we're entering.
And I was going to say, I love that you guys obviously read my show outline, because the next topic was some resources for working from home, because that's our new reality right now, is that a lot of individuals have been asked to work from home whenever possible, or to conduct meetings virtually or on the phone. So what we'll do, we've talked a lot about Zoom, and I want everyone to know that Zoom is probably the most accessible phone and video conferencing software I think I've ever used. I've had to use GoTo, and it's frankly horrible in regards to accessibility. It's not something that you can access independently. You don't have access to the chat messages that people send, those sorts of things. I haven't had any issues with Zoom. Keep in mind that when somebody shares their screen, it is a video. So it's the same accessibility problems that we would have with a video being displayed. So we're not going to be able to see what they're sharing. But depending on the screen reader that you're using, you can make the screen read to you. JAWS has a convenient OCR feature that can OCR that screen if you really needed to know what was on it. Or don't be afraid to advocate for yourself and say, hey, can you email that to me so that I can be able to look at that as well? People will be pretty accommodating with that, because you're probably not the only one that wants to have a copy of whatever they're displaying. So what we'll include in the show notes is the shortcut keys for working with Zoom, because everything can be done with a shortcut key on there. Muting yourself, sharing a screen, looking at participants, sending a chat message, all that wonderful stuff is completely accessible. And then I've also included a link for Google Hangouts, because they do provide an accessible way for you to conduct meetings as well, if Zoom's not an option for you for whatever reason, because Zoom does sometimes require downloading and installing software, whereas Google Hangouts is web-based completely. Keep in mind too that Zoom is offering, if you're a K-12, I think it's for teachers. So if you have like a K-12 email address, you can set it up on Zoom to be able to have basically the pro plan for free. So for those that don't know, when you're using Zoom, if you're meeting just with one other person, you can have the free plan and there's no limits. It's going to work just fine. But when you have 2 or more people, you do have to have the pro plan, or it will limit you to 40 minutes instead of unlimited. So this opens up a lot for people if you're having meetings with more than one person and you're in that K-12 system.
Another point that I really liked was creating your own workspace. And I think that's a great idea, because even for the students that are going to be home, the K through 12, they have to have that area. And you yourself, someone working from home, you're going to have that area too.
Yeah, and working from home can be a little interesting. It's, as the blind visually impaired community, we're always like, oh gosh, if it'd be so awesome if I could just work from home. It'd be great. And I know, Lori, that you've worked from home before, and I'm good for about a day of working from home. And then after that, I've typically run out of things to do without getting up and socializing. And I need that social interaction. So I do have a few tips to share. And Lori and Tiffany and Jeff, of course, feel free to add, because Jeff, I know you do a lot of work from home too. And Tiffany, I'm not sure if you do, but I bet that you've had some experiences with that as well. But one tip that's really important is, like Jeff said, create that separate workspace for yourself. Otherwise, you will find that you will be in somewhat chaos otherwise. Like if your workspace is in the middle of the living room and you have children and people coming in and out, it is going to be incredibly frustrating to try to get some real things done, especially if you're trying to meet on Zoom. One thing that I also recommend is get up and get dressed as though you were physically going to the office. I know it sounds a little weird and you're like, I'm working from home. Why can't I just be in my pajamas? It changes your mindset. It can change your focus. It can help keep you focused on the fact that you do have some job tasks to get accomplished. And it'll be refreshing. Like if you just roll out of bed and go straight to work, you might not have the most productive day as though you were doing your routine from the beginning. And it will also help with that transition when it's time to start going back to work again. It hopefully won't be such a drag trying to get up and go to work because you've still essentially been doing that.
Yeah. And also, I think, you kind of mentioned taking breaks. You really do need to remind yourself to do that, because you can get in a rut when working from home that, you just keep going and not really consider the time. You just need to be aware and take those mental breaks, whether it be, going to get a drink of water or, whatever, to help keep you in check. You do need those mental breaks.
Yeah. When I work from home, I typically take the same time frame of the same break time that I would take at work, because I have Logan, my guide dog. So, he's on his routine of going outside and doing his business. And that's typically when I would take my break, and then my lunch is always, I'm pretty much like clockwork,
I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, it's 12, stopping. I just, and sometimes you're like, okay, 10 more minutes and I get a little bit of a break. And I think it's needed. I think it's really hard to just power straight through doing work, because physically it's hard too. You're sitting in the same place for multiple hours. Your brain is fatigued because you're doing things in a totally different way. I agree with both of you guys that those breaks are super important.
Another thing is, I kind of consider it a break. I got a table that I can crank up and I can stand at my computer desk. I never thought that would be, I'll try it for a little bit, but every once in a while, I'll leave it the rest of the day that way, because it's so different to be standing, and your neck, your posture and everything. It's just refreshing to be able to do that. It's not an expensive one that, electronically goes up or something like that. It's actually a workbench type of thing, but it works great for this. So I highly suggest, if you can change your posture, stand up or move to a different table, a higher table once in a while, that really helps. And especially just getting up and walking around for a little bit, taking that mental break is very important.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about with those stands. I have one at my office at the college, and it's great to be able to manipulate either up or down, stand for a little bit and sit. So I'm going to have to think of other ways of doing that here at home now that I don't have that type of environment. So you do have to consider all things, but just keep yourself relaxed and be able to take those breaks when needed, whether it be, taking your dog out or helping someone else out, maybe taking a 15-minute break and just touching base with, your coworkers. Hey, how are you doing today? What's going on? Just because they need it just as much as you do.
That is such good advice. I think I love how you worded that with they need it just as much as you do. Because some people might think, oh, I'm bothering them. They're hard at work. I don't want to bother them. But we are social beings. The reality is that we enjoy socializing with each other. Obviously, yes, we're there to do a job and we have work tasks that have to be accomplished. But we're not robots. It would be such an odd workplace if we never socialized and talked with each other and checked in. And we spend 40 hours a week and sometimes more with these people. And it might even feel like almost like you're missing your family, because that's a lot of hours you're spending with people. You talk to them at lunch, you ask them how their weekend was. So just try to still have that social interaction, even if it is virtual, if you can. You ask them how their weekend was. So just try to still have that social interaction, even if it is virtual, if you can.
Yeah, and you could practice using Zoom at 10 to 10:15. You got your lunch break or your daily break. Then take your lunch break with your coworkers. There you go.
Jeff, how early are you eating lunch?
I know. I said that wrong. But hey, when you're working from
Jeff
home.
Jeff eats lunch at the same time as the kindergartners at elementary school. It's all good.
There you go. The paper straw and a carton of milk.
Yeah, he's happy.
Being at home and working from home, food is probably one of the biggest distractions for me.
I agree. I'm constantly like, what snacks are in there? And for me too, setting up the environment of where I'm going to work. Because I have like 3 or 4 different places where I'm comfortable working and I can isolate myself. And if I'm by myself completely, then I have more than that to find a place where I'm comfortable. So sometimes it's like, do I want to be here? Do I want to be in the office? Do I want to be on the couch? Like, that's what gets me distracted half the time too. So one more thing that might help you guys when it comes to working from home is don't forget that IRA still does have their first 5 minutes of every call for free. You'd be surprised how much you can accomplish in a 5-minute call. I'm always shocked when whatever I'm doing, I'm already done and it's 3 minutes and 32 seconds. I have put a request in to see if they would do a special offer for those that are impacted with the coronavirus things of having to be at home or maybe having to help your children unexpectedly with schoolwork. That has been passed along. I think Janine Stanley said she would submit that for us. So we will see in the coming days if IRA decides that that's something that they can possibly help out with, because I know there can be a lot of stress and anxiety associated with, oh my gosh, my child's home for this week and the teacher sent home all of these worksheets and books to read and things like that, and can be kind of hard figuring out how to support your children so that they can still learn for that week or weeks that they're out of school.
For I don't have little kids in school anymore, but I wonder if you would ask for like a reasonable accommodation with the teacher if they could scan in the documents so that, let the kids bring the hard copies home, but also scan some into you and send them to your email so you can access them and read them so you can help the student. You know what I mean?
Well, I think in the long term that they would definitely be willing to do that, week to week if there was homework they were sending home. But I know that my school had 24 hours notice to get the kids ready. They told us on the evening of the 12th at like 6:30 that the next day would be their last day physically in school and then to send them with empty backpacks. So, and I think that that's similar to the experience across the country. I know you guys got a little bit more notice, but when that night, I heard so many different schools saying that, this Friday was going to be their last day for a couple of weeks. So I think that unfortunately, that just wasn't feasible for the teachers this go around, even if they were previously even doing it for a parent. So we got to figure out something else.
Yeah, I think the teachers are going to be overloaded right at first, because just because you're a teacher doesn't mean you're a Zoom coordinator to conduct classes with 30, 35 people involved. They got their work cut out for them. Especially in Minnesota here, they got 2 weeks here where they're going to start planning this, because some companies have already shut down for 2 months. I know that Tai Chi, Chip, my friend, said that Tai Chi nationally shut down for 2 months. I don't know if that's overkill, but we'll see. The other thing I liked on their outline that you sent in is the entertainment, being able to just take time for yourself. Because I know when I work from home, it's like, it feels like you're never done because you didn't leave work. You didn't take that break, or, it's not 4:30 or 5 o'clock and you ride home. It feels like you could always finish a little more, extend it. But you put down here streaming devices or watching movies and stuff like that, like from Comcast or any other entertainment that you have to your access.
Yeah, I'm not sure that a lot of people realize this, and maybe these things have been more widely shared, but Comcast is doing some pretty amazing things right now to kind of help with the burden of this. The first thing that they're doing is they have an essentials, I forget what it's called, but an essentials package that's provided to individuals that are low income. And it's typically $9.99 a month. So for at least the next 2 months, they are completely waiving that fee. So there are some eligibility requirements, and we're going to put the link in the show notes. But that could be something that can make a significant difference in your life. And then they're also that essentials bundle is typically a slower data speed than the competitive bundle. I don't know. They are going to be increasing those data speeds for individuals accessing the essential bundle. And then they are also removing, some people don't even realize that this was a thing, but they were removing the data caps that are typically associated with their Comcast internet packages over the next 60 days as well. I know, Jeff, you know all too well the impact of those data caps sometimes, right?
Yeah. It can happen. It can happen.
You were blaming Alexa. You were blaming everything.
Oh, yeah. When it does happen, mine was a freak thing, but when it does happen, you're like really trying to figure out what's draining it. Hats off to Comcast for doing that, because you're going to have kids at home, you're going to have family at home, and the entertainment is going to go up. You're going to be Zoom calling. All this stuff is going to play with that threshold that you have. So, that's really good public thing for Comcast to do.
So I'm going to go back on the educational part of it. Working at a college, a lot of our classes are not online classes. They're actually face-to-face classes. So the instructors have had literally maybe a week to figure out how to get all their materials online and available for students. And then what to do for those students who don't even have a computer to access the materials that they may need. And I know our college actually is providing Chromebooks for some students. It's a first come, first served basis to help out because they know that there might be a need for that, as well as helping the instructors who maybe never taught an online class, how to get them up to speed quickly and how to utilize all the tools available within Canvas and Zoom and so forth to make students, successful during these times.
One resource that I forgot to add to the show notes that might be helpful, and perhaps you've already taken advantage of this, but U-Haul is offering 30 days free of storage for those college students that suddenly and unexpectedly had to move out of their residential dorms. There are many colleges across the country that completely closed, essentially, after spring break and moved to completely virtual for the rest of the year. There's some that just kind of are doing it a couple weeks at a time, but there's a lot of students that have found themselves in a situation where they have a lot of things to maybe get put away and did not plan on that at this time.
Yeah, the fallout of these decisions really trickles on down, and you really don't think about it until some of it has to hit home before you realize it, but it's happening all over the place. And yeah, who would have thought about dorms and then kids going home, and who thought you'd be hearing from U-Haul? That's interesting. Just to stick with our theme of interesting.
I know. I mean, somebody's going to count how many times we said interesting and send us an email.
I know too. I was watching one of the news programs yesterday morning, and they were saying that there is some museums that have like a virtual link that you can use. I don't know if they're audio described, but I thought that was kind of neat for some entertainment.
Yeah, I believe there's 12 museums right now on that list that are providing virtual tours. And I have not personally checked like the accessibility of it, like Lori mentioned as well. But if you have a young adult that you're trying to entertain that is sighted, hand in the iPad and tell them to go tour the Smithsonian or something.
Well, I may not qualify as a young adult, but it does sound interesting to me too. That is. You pack everybody into the house for too long, and it's going to be other than stir crazy. So trying to find things to do and interesting ways to keep everyone from each other in a sense, it's going to be interesting. Again, interesting.
Of course. And I know, Jeff, you mentioned, the streaming services and things like that. And I apologize if this is repetitive. One tip that I do have is I know not everyone has access to Netflix and Hulu and all those things. This is a time to maybe take perfect advantage of the trials that a lot of these services provide. I know YouTube TV offers, at least as of today, they were offering 2 weeks for free. It might go down to 1 week, but there's definitely a free trial that they offer. Hulu and Apple TV Plus all offer a free week. So if you're strategic and you maybe try one each week, that could offer you some additional entertainment options if you're going a little bit stir crazy. And they all have audio description options as well.
And I did see yesterday that Disney was going to be releasing Frozen 2 early.
Already released.
Yes, today. So everybody needs to be looking at that.
Yep.
Is it on Disney Plus, Lori? Do you know? Or is it
Yes.
on iTunes?
Nope,
It's on
Disney Plus.
Yep, Disney Plus.
Somebody's excited over
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
I can hear you
Fresh
doing
from
your little
Disney.
dance and you're smiling. Well, good to know. And now everyone will know what day we recorded this on. So thanks a lot, Lori. It's our secrets.
No problem.
I'm sure everyone's familiar with these resources, but it doesn't hurt to share them as well. Don't forget about all of your audiobook resources, talking book library. The only thing I can think of is if you're not already signed up for it, there could potentially be some delays with getting signed up for that because we don't know the full impact of offices and things like that. But if you are signed up for it, don't forget that Bard Mobile allows you to access all of those books on your iOS device. And I don't know, and do they have an Android app, Jeff, or no? I don't remember if they do.
I don't know. I know they have the iOS.
Yeah.
But
I believe so.
I'm sure that they probably do.
I would hope so.
Because it's been a while since they had the iOS app available. It's been, 4 years probably? 4 or 5 years
it's
now?
been,
if not longer.
The only reason I know how long it's been is because it came out when I was on maternity leave with my son. So it's been 6 years.
6 years.
Okay.
6 and a half.
And they're on version 1.3.
They're super advanced.
However, that Bard app that just got updated is a pretty good update. So
It is.
check that
It
out.
is a good update.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to really discover different titles and things without having to dig into the web version within the app.
And I'm still a Victor user, so I just love it. It's just so easy.
The other piece of things is I believe, Lori, you're an Audible user, and I'm not sure if you are as well, Tiffany.
I am, yes.
Yes, I think that they provide the highest quality of books, personally. That's my own opinion.
I do too. I keep telling Jeff, can you get me some more credits?
Yes.
Just last night, boom, I get this message.
10
Your
more.
order has been completed.
You're like, what do I order now? Yeah. Scratching your head.
Well, when I go into Audible and it suggests books for me, they're not from my category, my genre, believe me.
I don't even want to know.
He doesn't read smut like I do.
I suppose it wouldn't cost me anything to adventure into smut, would it? No, because I probably have access to them.
Is that an official category?
I don't know.
I believe they call it romance on the official Audible app.
That's true.
But one thing that individuals might not realize is that if you've never tried Audible before, you can get a free audiobook. And then when I first signed up, I got my first, I think it was 2 credits for free. So 1 credit equals essentially 1 audiobook. And it's kind of funny. When I tried to go cancel it, they offered me 2 more credits. So then I ended up keeping it. They gave me like half off the next month and then another couple credits. So even if you think, I'm not sure, maybe just try it just to get 1 additional book, because Audible definitely has titles that I found titles on Audible that I have not found on Bard Mobile. And I think that the narrators are better even if they are on both. They're recorded a little bit higher quality.
So what you're saying is play hard to get with Audible.
Yes. And I was truly trying to cancel it because I was like, man, I don't really want to spend $15 a month on it. And then they were like, well, why are you canceling? And I was like, price too much, because you just go online and it asks you. And it's like, well, what if we gave you half off your next few months and then gave you an extra couple of credits? And I was like, sure. And then 2 years later, here we are.
The other thing I've found with Audible is they'll have the new releases way before Bard or any other service.
For sure.
So if you're looking for, that next series in a book, Audible is going to have it before anybody else.
And they have Audible originals that do not cost you a credit to download as well. I believe it lets you download 2 a month. And then there's like some workout ones too on there that I think are completely free and there's no limit on those.
Yeah, I downloaded a couple of those, and I think it's just so easy to get the book in there. I mean, people talk about the Victor Stream and stuff like that, but the phone, it's just the way they're making the apps. It's hard not to just use the phone because it's so easy.
Yeah, they've actually, and I love this improvement that they've made. It used to be with Audible that if you had a book you wanted to use a credit towards to buy, you had to go to Safari and go into your list there. But they've updated the app, I'm not sure how long ago, where you can use your credits right in the app. You don't have to go outside the app to do anything. And that,
I think it was a couple months ago.
Yeah, I was going to say that's pretty recent.
Yeah, it's been the last maybe 3 months. That's made it way easier, because sometimes I'm like, I do not feel like doing that right now. But you can't use your credit card to buy an audiobook. But if you have credits, you can use your credits right there on the app now.
And every once in a while, if you pay attention to it, you can buy like 3 credits and get a big discount on it. So you're not paying $15, you're paying like $11 for if you buy 3. So, one way of saving money and to gift someone some books if you so desire.
And they very often have a 2-for-1 as well. Like they'll be like, hey, we're having a sale. You can pick any 2 books in this list for 1 credit. And I've definitely taken advantage of that before too. And then there's always good old trusty Bookshare. I think a lot of us are familiar with that. If you're not, what that is it's another resource for books. It's not audiobooks, but it's books that are essentially in print form. And then they do have an app called Read to Go, or you can put it in Voice Dream Reader and it can read you the text from a book. And Bookshare is really good as well with getting the New York Times bestsellers. I think they get them the same week that they come out, if I recall. It's been a while since I've used it, but they've definitely got a lot of books that you can choose from on there as well. That is a subscription-based service as well, though.
Unless you're a student.
Correct.
So that'll help a lot of those students who might be struggling to find stuff.
So I'm curious, it's only been a few days, but how are you guys spending the time? I know Lori's cleaning.
I did some cooking yesterday. I made a big pot of homemade chicken noodle soup, and I took some to Jeff's parents because they're older and, I really don't want them to go out. So we dropped off some soup to them. So yeah, just meal prepping, cleaning out the fridge, putting the new stuff in, wiping down handles, all that great stuff.
Watching movies, reading books, playing cards.
Mr. Thompson?
I've been supervising Lori cleaning.
Oh, I'm sure that you're so helpful.
Oh, yes, he's a blast.
Let me guess, he turned the Roomba on for you, right?
No.
Not even that. Jeez.
No, he did cut my butternut squash. I've got a
those are such a pain to cut.
Yes, so I cooked up a squash today. I'm going to make squash soup. So he did. He'll help me in the kitchen a little bit here and there.
Especially when I did the juicing, cutting up all the pineapple and all the vegetables and all that stuff. So that's one thing, and that's quite a chore. I mean, to do all that, cooking anything. But it's springtime here, so cleaning up outside. It's surprising how healthy I kept my dog all winter, because I have proof. Just like flu season or any other season, you want to keep things clean and everything. So we're doing this extra little bit of hand washing and being aware of everything. So yeah, everyone's home. It seems like, wow, don't they have lives? But here we are. That was stupid.
No, it wasn't. It was fine.
No, it was stupid.
Oh my goodness. Please leave that in, Jeff.
Oh yeah.
He's like, no, no chance of that.
It's already gone.
So I'm glad that we can have a little bit of humor on this show, because this is obviously a very serious topic, but we want to kind of provide you guys information to help support you and maybe make you laugh a little bit while we're chatting. One thing that's really important to think about is keeping your mental and physical health in check. This can be a super stressful and anxiety-producing time, as we have all kind of talked about a little bit towards the beginning of this show. And there are some resources to help you manage and cope with that stress and anxiety. We will keep a link in the show notes in regards to the CDC's website in regards to very specific information about managing stress and anxiety in the wake of the
Corona.
Yeah, I was going to say coronavirus because that's how Jaws keeps saying it.
I know. Isn't that funny? I know. I said that one day to somebody. I said, this coronavirus, what are you talking about? I said, well, the coronavirus. I'm
I hate it when that
happens. It's just how Jaws says it.
That happens to me so much.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we will keep a link in the show notes that has specific information about managing your stress and anxiety in the wake of the coronavirus outbreak. And then another thing to keep in mind, and we talked about this a little bit, there are options for getting mental health care via the telephone or web-based services. I know that my insurance company and multiple other ones can go through I think it's the Doctors on Demand app, where it's like a video app, but they also have therapists on there to help you, and you can pick the one you want to work with and schedule a phone or video meeting with them. And it's the same copay that you would normally pay with your health insurance company. And there's even doctors and therapists that will accept Medicaid even via that telephone service. So obviously check with your local providers and things like that to ensure that would be covered for you. But there are those options as well. And Jeff, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the rules that maybe are changing for prescriptions?
Sure. In Minnesota, we've been able to pick up multiple months worth of prescriptions, but I hear that across the nation, a lot of providers are changing it so you could get at least 2 months of prescriptions. Now, you may not think that's much, but anytime that you don't have to go out or rely on someone else to get something for you, that's great. That if you can pick up 2 months worth of prescriptions, that'd be awesome. And the other thing is mail order prescriptions. If you can get them that way, that'd be a good choice too. Because even going into the doctor or into the pharmacy, I don't know how long this is going to last, but if you can do anything without that physical interaction, what do they call it? Social distancing, which is keeping 6 feet from people, avoiding coughing, cough into your elbow, they say. Don't bump elbows then, I suppose, but yeah. Interesting.
Before we wrap up, I just wanted to see if Lori or Tiffany, and of course you, Mr. Thompson, have any other tips or resources that you'd like to share with the listeners.
I would just like to say that we got to remember that we're all in this together, and we need to be kind and patient and try to think of others as much as, this is the speech I'm going to give to my kids as soon as I get off here. Okay. Just be kind to others and think about what you're doing. And if you go out, you could be bringing something home, or if you go visit a friend, you could be taking something that you don't see or feel or whatever to someone else's house. And I think if we're just cognizant of that and thinking of others, I think we can make it through this. I don't know how long it's going to take, though, so we just need to be patient.
I think we need to be patient, but I also think we need to be there to listen to people when they need it. Especially, for me as being a chapter president, I've told the members of the chapter, if you need to just talk, I'm here to be a sounding board and to listen to if you're getting overwhelmed or stressed about this, I'm a sounding board for you. So I think being available just to listen to others during this stressful time.
Yes, I totally agree, because we're all going to be basket cases before 14 days or however long we have to be in seclusion for. I love Jeff. I really do. But Serina, I probably will be calling you.
I fully expect that we're going to have like the best episode ever to record of. So what did you do during your 14 days seclusion?
14 days later.
Because I could totally see Jeff
14
driving you a
days
little crazy
later.
during that time.
Absolutely.
I'll call you, Tiffany.
Okay, cool.
We're setting this up already. We already got it on the calendar. 14
it's going to be
days.
needed about day 3. Let's just be honest.
3.
I'm calling you after we
Wow.
get off of here.
That's optimistic.
It's not even the end of the weekend and Lori's already on it.
I think it's really one of the things that a tip for people is if you do need to use an Uber or a Lyft, if you do have latex gloves or if you just have gloves, depending on what part of the country you're in, it's still kind of chilly up here a little bit, but just don't be groping around in the back seat there. You don't know how many people have been in there and stuff if you do need to get transportation. But it's sinking into me that I'm not going anywhere. I keep on thinking I could go to hockey practice or I could go to open skating or I could go to the gym, but it's slowly sinking in. I'm not going anywhere. And the dog just realizes that I'm going to be home now. So he's whining behind me right now.
I was going to ask, is that the dog or the cat that is obviously miserable right now?
That's a dog. She just heard that I'm going to be home for 14 days straight.
Oh, man. She's sad.
Well, Serina, thanks. This was a great idea to come on here. Tiffany, thanks for coming on and sharing. And Lori, you too, sharing our 14-day affair we got coming up.
But wait, we're not done yet.
Oh.
There's more. No, I'm just kidding. It's really just the wrap up. But I do want to share, it is my intention, and please don't hold me to timelines, but I will be developing a website on my site, Blindyblog, BLINDYBLOG, www.blindyblog.com/corona. That outlines the resources that we talked about today, and hopefully we'll update with different resources as they become available. I haven't noticed any resources that are specifically targeted to the blind and visually impaired community, so if you guys do know of some, and I don't need to recreate the wheel, please feel free to send them over to Jeff and he'll make sure that I get it. I love how I volunteer you.
Hey, if we don't have to rebuild it, we won't. But if we do have to rebuild the wheel, hey, we're good wheel builders.
Exactly. But I think it's important to have a really safe place to be able to talk about these things. So we're definitely opening up our Facebook group called the Blind Abilities Community. And feel free to post your questions about, we obviously aren't medical professionals and things like that. But if you're like, hey, what'd you guys do to try to get some groceries? Or how did you do this? Like, post it in there and our community will definitely support you. If you have questions in regards to the technology side of things that might help you out, feel free to post in assistive technology community for the blind and visually impaired. We love answering questions in there. It's a very large community. And if you have questions about your career and you're working from home or general tips about that, we also have the career resources for the blind and visually impaired Facebook group, all of which you're welcome to just type in the search box on Facebook and click join.
Perfect.
Now you can do your wrap up, Jeff. Stop rushing me.
I just want to thank Serina for organizing this and Tiffany for coming on. Tiffany, Manosh, where can people find you on the social media?
I'm on Facebook and email and that kind of stuff.
There we go. Lori?
I'm on Facebook, Lori Thompson, and my Twitter is at LThompson6835.
Jeff, where can they find you?
You can find me at known as Jeff on Twitter, and you can follow me on Blind Abilities as well. That's the Blind Abilities podcast at www.blindabilities.com. Yeah. And you can find me here in friendly Minnesota. Self-isolating.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody, and good luck.
Have fun cleaning, Lori.
And we'll see you in 14 days.
Is that a threat, Jeff? You may visit www.blindyblog.com/corona to find updated information regarding general resources, transportation resources, as well as tips and tricks for managing the next few weeks. Again, that's www.blindyblog.com/corona.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store and on Google Play. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities. You can also enable the Blind Abilities skill on your Amazon device. Just say, enable Blind Abilities.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the realities of blind abilities.
The realities of blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, download our app from the App Store, Blind Abilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.